Well, hi there, Minder.
Well, hi. It's been a while.
It's been a hot minute. It sure has. Um, a lot has gone on. We will probably get into that more. I don't know. Do you want to talk about it at the beginning of the episode, or do you want to leave it for fun and fuckery?
I guess we can do a little recap of where we've been past
Okay.
couple weeks. Basically, at least for me, the last 2 weeks we've been off is I wouldn't really say my fault, but it's I'm the reason why because work has just been insane for me that I literally go to the bathroom once a day or twice a day because I just feel so busy because I get so focused on something and I'm trying to get stuff done as quickly as possible that and then people interrupt me and it just ruins my flow and everything, so I kind of just I've been all over the place at work and
Yeah.
just constant reports, constant audits, constant tasks and projects to be given, so I've basically just been drained. When I get home I don't want to do really anything. I've been early into coloring, but I haven't even colored in the past 2 or 3 weeks. I haven't been playing any games except when I play with you or Mark. Um, so just and I basically just doom scroll when I get home. I
Hmm.
don't really do much beyond that.
Yeah. You
How
get
about
it.
how about you, ma'am?
Yeah. Same. Um. You're not the only reason. I. Um. I've been going through my own shit, like personal shit, like mental health shit. Relationship is fine, but the mental health has not been great.
Mm-hmm.
I battle with the seasonal depression.
Yeah.
Um and so and just the depression in general anymore, but the seasonal likes to come in and mix up the bunch around this time of year every year. I can pretty much time it like clockwork. So I will need an adjustment in my medication, which I have not been able to acquire just yet. Also dealing with just some other like random health things. Been having some like gallbladder pain. And by the way, I got my ultrasound results back. The nurse called me, and there's not one gallstone,
Hmm.
not one. I said, then where the pain coming from?
Yeah.
Because I can officially say I've experienced level 10 pain now. My only thought is there must have not been very many, and maybe I passed them all already.
Mm-hmm.
And that's, you know what I mean? Like maybe that's what it was. Like maybe I've passed them all already, but my liver enzymes, like I told you, are like through the roof. Like the cutoff is like 35, mine are like 107. So they do want to investigate that further. They want to do a different kind of scan on my liver to like look at it a little better than just the ones I've already had. And it's a very specific type of scan. So they want to do that. So that's good. They're not giving up on me. They're not like, oh, we don't know, goodbye, which is nice because this is
Yeah.
my new doctor's office.
Mm-hmm.
So to have this level of like, well, we need to keep looking at it when this is my new office is really good. Like I'm happy about that because you know me and my history. And if you've listened to the show long enough, you know medical doctors have not always been my friend. So, and I lost
Looking
my
at you, Dr. Dickhead.
right looking at you, Dr. Dickhead. But yeah, it's been interesting the last few weeks just trying to figure out how to get through my day, let alone do anything else outside of that. And I was kind of happy that you weren't up for recording. Not happy because you were going through what you were going through, obviously, but just like I
Relieved.
needed,
Like you felt like you needed something was taken off your
yeah,
plate.
yeah, I needed to simplify life as much as humanly possible because just getting out of the bed was hard enough.
Hmm.
And I'm still kind of there, but
Well, we can
we
always take
are,
yeah, we can always take another break because I basically just wanted this follow up didn't necessarily have to happen. I'm telling the audience this, but this didn't necessarily have to happen. But it's more of the fact of we did say we're going to do a part 2 for our last episode.
Yeah.
And then
life.
And then life happened, but then also it's like, okay, I do want to do it, even though it's not really that important of a topic because it's fucking JD Vance. But also, like, it's if you're in the US right now, it is October 29th, the day we're recording this. This is out on Halloween, so actually kind of fitting that we're doing about this. But then our election is November 5th, which is next Tuesday. So exactly a week from today is our general election. So I kind of wanted to get it out before the election.
Yeah.
So we don't actually have really anything planned past this. It's more of a just a if this doesn't get done, it's just gonna be on my mind.
Yeah, and it's no longer relevant, and then we doesn't make sense with our last content. We said we were going to do a follow-up, and then we just never did. So it's one of those, we want to get this done so that the continuity of everything makes sense, but also, like, we don't know if you're going to hear from us again.
Yeah, like life hit us
for a while.
Yeah. So, like, for me, like, I have been kind of like doing a depression thing. It's the problem. My thing is that I've been so busy at work that's like it's kind of like I don't have time to think about it. Like I think it was Sunday where I just randomly cried. Like I don't even remember what I was crying about. I just like randomly like broke down and cried. And then, but it's not like seasonal. I don't really get like it's because I think it's because I'm a night person. Like seasonal stuff doesn't affect my depression. So it's more of just general, like my just general brain being fuck you, bitch, you know?
I think yours, and I'm not saying it's not depression because I'm not in your brain. I don't know that. But I feel like with everything that's been going on, I know if it was me, that the random like breaking down and crying, that would be a meltdown. Like I think you're in full blown autistic burnout meltdown stage, and like that's okay. Like that's understandable for the level of bullshit you've been dealing with. So like not to go into like a bunch of details, but like the workload that they have expected this woman to knock out is batshit bananas crazy for one person to do. And other people not doing their jobs correctly or doing their own due diligence before passing off their jobs to her for her to do her part is just it's just ridiculous. So needless to say, as best friend energy enters the chat, I would like to go down and crack a bitch or 3 because this is getting ridiculous. I think I've even said this several times in our group chat with Scott. I'm like, listen, just tell them that if they don't knock it off, they're about to meet Hurricane Nikki, okay? And she is worse than any hurricane you've ever seen in your life.
It's strongest inland hurricane you ever seen.
You ever did see. Yeah, you ever did see.
Yeah, so I mean I could see that. It's just burnout and stress. And I feel like I was telling you about my chest pains and like it's like I can't find a common denominator for my chest pains. Like I'm beginning to think like partially are caused by stress and anxiety because I've had like 3 or 4 small ones in the past week when normally I have like one every month or 2. But I've had like 3 or 4 small ones. Like they'll go away pretty quickly. Like I literally downed my entire cup of like 30-ounce cup of water just to make it go away. But then like it also says that what I'm thinking it is, which might be angina, it says cold water can make it worse. But I'm like, okay, but for me, like cold liquid anything makes it better. So it's almost like it's like severe heartburn, but like, you know, it's just I'm cooling it off with like so I can't it's not water itself. It's just if I drink like room temperature water, it wouldn't help it as much as just cold water. It just has to be cold anything really.
So I'm wondering if I think it is stress, and the way that you describe it to me, it's like when your nervous system perceives cold like that, it does something. Like that's why people do cold plunges and shit. It does something to your nervous system that I don't quite understand.
Or it's kind of like in movies when someone's having like a panic attack and they just like throw water at them. It's like, calm down,
or
bitch.
like me with my meltdowns and sour candy. Like your brain is receiving stimuli at that point. They're like, oh, this is sour. And like it redirects your nervous system. I think they are from stress. That's what I think. I
Yeah.
think it's probably a combination of things, but I think the main trigger for them is stress. That because there is no other common denominator, like you said, that like it's not a food, it's not a position you're standing or sitting or laying in, it's not in a certain environment that they happen. It's just I do think it's stress. I really do.
Mm-hmm.
And that would make sense
Yeah.
if you've had several this week
Mm-hmm.
and this has been the most stress you've been under in quite some time. So, I mean, it's just been batshit. But anyway, we have some more batshit things to talk about.
Yes. And the actual
Or
follow-up to
yeah.
the last episode
Yeah. Um
before our brains die.
yeah, so I'm going to let you lead it in where you kind of want this to go because I feel like I could take it in a lot of different directions and I want to make sure that whatever you wanted to say about this gets heard because I talked a lot the last episode
Mm-hmm.
about my theories and things. So I want to make sure that you get heard on this one. So I'm going to let you start
Okay.
and you go with whatever you want to talk about. I can jump in when it's appropriate, but let's just start with what your thoughts are on the movie.
Okay. So, in case you guys missed the last episode, or forgot because it's been a couple weeks, we talked about. Oh, hi, Ella. We talked about um, JD Vance and like our thoughts on him. Neither of us really like him. Nikki is more. I'm not saying Nikki likes him, but she's more of a.
Oh Lord, hold on. Let me shut the
Okay.
door. I think my husband's home. Apologies, Pupper's interruption. Sorry, y'all. It's not my husband, but we're gonna have. Hopefully, Puppers will calm down if she comes in here and sits down. Ellie, maybe not. She says, "Fuck you, mom. I do what I want."
Okay.
Anyway, I'm sorry.
So, not saying that Nikki supports JD Vance or anything like that. She does, to me, between the both of us, she tends to play more devil's advocate for things. Whereas more, my thing is, it's like, it's not that I'm like stuck in my ways because like, it's not like I've been liberal or anything my whole life. Uh, it's actually probably less than 10 years that I've probably would consider myself liberal. But so basically, we decided, okay, this is our thoughts about JD Vance as we know him right now, because neither one of us had heard of him before July, which is when he was announced as Trump's VP pick. So it wasn't until probably a couple weeks later I was like, oh, that's the guy that wrote Hillbilly Elegy. Like, and then they made Ron Howard directed a movie based on the book. I think because it came out in 2020, it got pushed to Netflix. So I vaguely remember the book because I worked at Barnes and Noble when it came out. So I vaguely remembered like the cover of the book, and I just vaguely remember the name. And so, but I didn't like never put two and two together that was the same person. And so we wanted to see, kind of give him a fair shake and watch the movie. And I did double check. I watched like a couple YouTube videos after I saw the movie. I was like, okay, how close is the movie though to the book? Because, stuff gets Hollywoodized or whatever. So I watched a couple things. Apparently it was fairly close. Like they couldn't include everything, obviously, because it's a book versus a movie. And so based on what he wrote, the movie's fairly close. Like they did have to dramatize stuff. Like apparently the part where he had to like rush back to make the interview in like 10 hours or something didn't happen. Like that sort of stuff, like the whole like edge of your seat, like will he, won't he make it type of thing.
Right.
That didn't happen, which is fair. Like I kind of did expect. I'm like, are you sure? Like, okay, but so I kind of wanted to watch the movie because I didn't want to really read the book. I want to watch the movie to see, okay, will this change my opinion of him? Will me seeing something that's supposed to be based on his life that he wrote, will it make him look worse or better in my eyes? So I will say it mostly unchanged, if slightly a little bit worse. Like he, like, and I told Nikki we were like talking about it after she watched the movie. I said, I get why he is the way he is because of his upbringing. Mostly because I feel like it's almost like his upbringing and how he is now to me don't really equate, because I feel like if he how do I like want to phrase this? Basically, he just seems like the fact that people act like he doesn't know how the real world works. He doesn't know how blue collar people have it. He seems like very out of touch. And I never agree with that, but I'm like, but didn't he grow up poor? He grew up in like not necessarily rural, like he claims that he's like grew up in Appalachia, but he kind of spent summers there, but he grew up in like Ohio. So like middle of Ohio, so not even in the Appalachian Mountains. So to me, he didn't seem out of touch, but it seems like almost like how he acts now does not really coincide with how his upbringing was. Because he just hi Ella,
I do not know what her problem is. I'm sorry.
probably the kids, but um, to me, it's like I feel like the way he was brought up, like the struggles he went through, the type of childhood he had, I don't see how that made him the way he is today, because he is very misogynistic. He is very racist, and it's like but the movie and the book, I don't know about the book, but the movie didn't really seem like he had any racist things. Obviously, he wouldn't include that in his own book about himself, but I just don't understand. Like, he was raised by mainly his grandmother and sometimes his mom, but mainly his grandmother. But then now he's like a misogynistic asshole who thinks men are better, but he wasn't raised like he was kind of raised by his grandpa, but his grandpa died when he was a teenager. So, or a kid. So I don't understand how he went from point A to point B is my thought. It's like I understand he needs therapy. Whether or not he gets therapy, I don't know. That's between him and his therapist or whatever. So he's the type of person that he needs therapy, but I also feel like he's the type of person that probably thinks therapy is for weak people, and he's not weak. He seems very narcissistic. So I personally, this movie made me kind of respect him a little less, because I feel like the way his upbringing did not form him into a compassionate person, like a compassionate person the way I think normally it would. Like, he got power, he has wealth, whatever. After not having power, not having wealth, but he's like squandering it. Like, he's not. He needs therapy, but he won't get therapy, but he's not like a marginalized. He's not in a marginalized group. He's not a minority. He's he's a straight white man. So basically, I feel like he's just wasting the type of like the potential he could have had, if that makes sense.
Yeah. Um, and now that I'm a little farther removed from it, like I completely and even at the time when I was first texting you as I was watching this, um, I wasn't disagreeing with you on really any of what you were saying. I guess that for reasons I will not explain on the show, I related to his childhood more than I anticipated relating to his childhood. So I did not do well watching the film and actually had a small nervous breakdown after I watched it.
And I told him,
It
like,
was
I didn't realize this
very
would trigger
triggering.
you. So yeah, I was like, I didn't realize this would trigger you. I just
I didn't either. To be honest with you, I didn't even think I knew what the theme of the movie was. Like I knew that there was going to be, like
heavy
I don't
topics.
yeah, it's gonna be heavy topics and, like, we're not sponsored, I can say child abuse, like, he was beaten, his mom was on drugs, like, shit like that, and, like, neglect and just lots of things, and I'm not I'm not saying our lives were the same because they weren't. Um, and I'm not going to discuss it further than that. But um, I just could relate to the overall themes of the show or of the movie much more than I had anticipated ever being able to. And I think that put me in a place of hyper empathy for him.
Mm-hmm.
And so I was just very in my feelings after watching it. Now that I have stepped back a little bit, I don't think the empathy has completely left me, but I do agree. And let's just clear one thing up. We don't know if he sought therapy. We have no idea. You know what I
Mm-hmm.
mean? Maybe he has, maybe he hasn't. Um we don't really know anything about him other than what he has chosen to put out in the media for
What he
our
portrays
consumption.
himself as. So
Right. So we don't know anything about him truly other than what he has told us and how he presents in the media. So my take on it after watching it was that with everything he experienced in his life, I actually understand how we got here. Like, I understand how he ended up with the worldview that he has because you're looking at a very insecurely attached, emotionally stunted um, puppet of what a man should be. And I'll
mm-hmm.
explain that further. Because he was not raised by men and didn't have much of a male influence other than the awful ones that his mother chose to bring around and his grandfather, who wasn't a saint either. Um, and he was raised by women who had their own flaws, his mother being the most flawed one in his life, and then his grandmother kind of being his safe space, but knowing she was deeply flawed as well and didn't always do the right thing by him. Um, I think when he got older and wanted out of that situation, um, he was like a very much like a fish out of water. He went right from his, lower, I mean, lower class sounds awful to say, but he was poor. He was raised poor. Okay. He was raised poor. Then went straight to the military as soon as he could. Then out the military, went to law school.
Mm-hmm.
And like he went to Yale of all
Yeah.
places. So like you want to talk about fish out of water syndrome? like
Yeah.
like that's
Yeah.
that
That.
is such new territory for him. And you were going to say something. Go ahead.
Oh, I was gonna say, like, I thought that was interesting because the way that they portrayed him, like how he acted, which I would be the same way. Like if I was at some fancy dinner with a whole plate setting with like, 3 forks, 3 spoons, 2 knives, like I would be like, what am I doing?
Same.
And so it was kind of strange because like it almost you kind of forget how young he is because
Yeah.
he's like what 40 I think, or he's not.
He's
I'm
he
looking it
is
up. Yeah, he
Jordan's
just turned
age.
40. He just turned 40
Yeah, he's a
months
couple
ago.
years older than Jordan. Yeah.
Yeah. So it's almost like when they showed him at the dinner at Yale where he was trying to get that interview with that one law firm. Um the and he had to call his girlfriend, which is now his wife, Usha, and to ask cuz she grew up I guess more privileged, like she grew up in that sort of environment to where she knew that sort of stuff, the whole elite type
Right.
of society. So the fact that it was like set, I think it was like 2011 or something like that when it was set, and it's almost like it almost like played as if it was like this is like a movie in like the 70s or 80s. I don't really know how to
Yeah.
explain it because it's almost like I get why he didn't know because like I said, I'd be the same way. But it's almost like would you not I don't know. I don't want to like say something like that doesn't really make sense, but which I say all the time. But the um it was kind of endearing. I will say, he is not 100% like a terrible person. He has terrible views,
Yeah.
but he obviously like I will say it's obviously he loves his wife, but it's also like I feel like the way sometimes he talks about his wife, it's almost like, dude, I don't know if you deserve your wife. I
Mhm.
honestly don't know why. Obviously, she loves you a lot because otherwise, I don't know why she's with you. To be
Yeah.
honest, because you say racist things, and she's not white. You say racist things, and you can be racist and have like non-white like partners and non-white children. There are people
Right.
that can. So, but the fact that he doesn't he obviously holds his wife in high regard in some aspects, but it's the fact of like he sometimes even when he talks about their own children, he says her children, like her
Yeah.
children, her kids, and it's really strange because he does basically what he thinks of women is like women are just uh are just there to get married and have babies. That's
Right.
literally he literally thinks the downfall of society is because women and let's be fair, white women are not having enough kids in
Yeah.
the United States. So yeah.
And I don't I feel like I can very clearly see how we got here. I think is my point. I now have more theories than I had before.
Yeah.
So so I do feel like I can very clearly see how we got here, and I'm going to therapize him a little bit. Which is rude and you shouldn't do that to people, but I'm going to do it anyway
It's our
because
show,
it's my
damn it.
show.
Hmm.
That's right. It's our show, damn it, and we'll do what we want. But I see very clearly that there's, we talk about attachment styles in the therapy world. Um, and I'm not going to explain what the attachment styles are or go in depth in that because that can be an entire episode in itself. And I am not a therapist, so I don't want to get into that. If you're curious about that, look it up. But he is insecurely attached because his father is nowhere around. His mother was inconsistent as all hell and worse yet, abusive and neglectful. And his grandfather died at a when he was still young, which was the only male role model you could call it that he really had. And his grandmother took him in when he was a young teenager, because his mother had gone off the rails completely. And she finally felt like it was time to take him in. But he knew that she didn't want him before. Like, he knew that every time he would ask to stay, she'd tell him no.
Hmm.
Like,
You gotta support your mama.
yeah. And so there was this mantle placed on this insecurely attached kid who watched his mother's life crumble in front of him, endured abuse from that person, while also being told by the other people in his life that he is responsible for this woman, that he is responsible for his mother. And I remember the scene with him in the car after the grandma buys him the calculator after he tries to steal it. And she said, I'm not, you got to go to school. You got to learn something. You got to do something with your life because I'm not going to live forever. And then who's going to take care of this family when I'm gone?
Hmm.
And I think that that boy latched on to that so hard. And that is why he pushed as hard as he pushed, did what he had to do by going into the military because he knew that was the only way he's going to be able to afford school. So he got through military long enough to get the GI Bill so he could go to school, went to Yale, went to law school because he was smart enough to do it, still couldn't afford it. According to the movie, he was working while he was in school at the same time, trying to pay tuition. So he worked his way through college, graduated, got into a law firm. And you got to think about the kind of people you encounter when you go to one of them hoity-toity ass schools,
Yeah, because even in
right?
the movie, it showed it showed that him trying to ask for wine or something. He didn't know the
Right.
difference, or that sort of stuff.
Right. So, like, think about, for the first time ever, he's able to achieve this massive thing, right? He did it. He got the job. He's working at a law firm. He's working his way up in the law firm. And he's finally making enough money to where he can help himself and his family, like grandma asked him to do, right?
Mm-hmm.
His mom decides she's finally going to get clean. I'm pretty sure he probably helped her pay for the rehab because I'm sure she didn't have two nickels to rub together. That's just my own observation. I don't know that to be fact.
Yeah, that the scene. I think what she's like talking about is there was a scene where he's like using like 5 different credit cards to pay for her stay.
Yeah,
That was one of the things that didn't happen. It was interesting. It didn't
yeah.
happen that way, but
I mean, like when she did finally get clean for the last time. Like
yeah.
this was, I think this was well after he had already graduated Yale that
Oh
she
yeah,
actually did get clean for the first time and stayed clean. Like when
right.
she got clean, she stayed clean. Um, 'Cause I think she's only been sober for like 6 years, 9 years, or something like that.
Yeah,
He
because
said
at least during one of
he
his
said it,
speeches,
but I don't
yeah, at
remember.
least during one of his speeches, he says 6 years.
Okay,
I'm not sure if that's what it said at the end of the movie, like how long she's been sober. But to me that's weird. Like I'm sure she gave him permission. I'm sure she's like proud of the fact that she's. But to me, it's like you kind of parade your mom around talking about this sort of stuff. Like
I agree.
that's
I
weird.
agree. I don't think it should be front and center. I think they chose to put it front and center for several reasons. I don't know that I agree with all of those reasons, but it was going to come out anyway. The media was going to dig it up anyway, so he might as well control the narrative, right?
Well,
And
they
put
knew
it out.
this movie came
Yeah,
out
and they
four
had already
years ago,
known.
and the book came out
Right.
3 or 4 years before that, so they knew.
Right. So he wanted to control the narrative around the situation. But also, I do feel it's a little skeezy to like bring it up at every rally that your mom was a drug addict and she got clean and all this other shit. Like, you don't need to parade that around in front of you to like prove anything to anybody,
To give
right?
yourself
Like,
kudos, you know,
right,
because
exactly. Nor does she need that thrown in her face all the time,
it's also
you
more of a
know?
self-serving thing because
Yeah.
it's like I don't think you're doing it like yeah, part of it is because he's proud of his mom for getting clean, all that. I
Right,
understand that
right.
part, but it's more like you're literally just kind of bringing it up all the time just to be like, well, see where I am today? Like, I'm a nominee for vice president and I had a drug addict for a mother. So,
Right. And like that's kind of gross in its own right, but like what I'm getting at here is that once he got into the law firm and he got his footing and knew what he was doing and he no longer started to feel like a fish out of water, he actually belonged somewhere.
mhm.
You took an insecurely attached person who's desperate to try to save his family and save his mother because he feels like that's the mantle he is to carry given to him by his grandmother. He has this wonderful girlfriend who he loves today. I do believe he loves her. I really
Yeah,
do. I do
that's what I'm
believe
saying.
he's
I don't
obsessed
doubt
with
that
her.
he loves her. The way sometimes he
Yeah,
talks about her is weird to me.
I agree with you. But he has to doesn't want to lose this woman, wants to be able to provide for himself and her and give her everything she wants while also taking care of his family who took care of him and help his sister who basically helped to raise him when chaos was happening and sheltered him from as much as she could. And also now he has to figure out how to take care of his mother and help her get clean. You have to think about the type of people he is surrounded by, right? What is the worldview he is going to be surrounded by when he is a Yale Law School graduate working at a top law firm?
Yeah.
What is the worldview he is going to be exposed to,
Mhm.
right? With someone who is maybe didn't have time to fucking think about the trauma he experienced in his life. He was too busy trying to get a fucking job, right?
Mhm.
Like, let's be real. He might not have had fucking time to think about it when he was going through it. You know what I mean? As an adult, even into adulthood, I mean. And now he's finally got what he needs to do the thing he's supposed to do that he feels he's supposed to do. Who he has to be to make sure that he doesn't lose that and lose the chance to and lose the security that he has now found in this belonging that he is in that is giving him the literal financial security to do the things he's supposed to do. Think about who he had to become to make sure that that was never taken away from him.
Mhm.
I'm not saying it's right. Okay. There's other things he could have chosen, right? We all have choices. He could have chosen a different law firm. He could have chosen lots of things, but this is the path he chose, that he walked with the information he had and the experiences he had. This is where he got, right? I think part of him was very smart and knew in order to make the money, you got to be a certain kind of person. The money he needed required him to be a certain type of person. And I think he was okay with that.
I
And
think
I think
that's
over time,
go
that
ahead.
shaped his worldview and shaped him into the person he is today. I don't think it would have mattered if he was raised by his grandmother and she was a fucking saint and never did anything wrong and was like the best thing ever and had saved him from his mother at a young age. If things were different in his life growing up, I don't think we would have this JD Vance we have today. And I think it's very easy to say, well, he should have known better, he could have done better, or whatever. But we also don't know what it took and what he had to do and what part of his soul he had to sell to fulfill the thing that he felt he should do for the mantle that was placed on him at such a young age. Trauma does crazy shit to your brain, right? It
And,
makes you be a person you don't think you would really ever be, especially if it's never been dealt with.
and
So I just think that's how we got here.
and I'm not saying like I completely don't see like why he is the way he is. Like I said, I know he's a deeply troubled person. Whether or not he will admit that, probably not. But
Right.
what you're saying kind of plays into my thought process. It's like, okay, you had all these struggles. You do know what it's like to be without. That experience obviously did not teach you compassion or
Right.
empathy. So
Or
he,
it did and he had to squash it.
yeah, so he was twisted into the way he is. And I'm not saying like he was completely manipulated. He's a full grown
Yeah.
man. He can,
Right.
he's
And
intelligent.
people do learn and change.
Yeah, he's intelligent. And so he um he like his I don't know, like obviously his grandma would, they were probably conservative, but they probably, to me, they feel like, I feel like lower class, and I know it's hard to say, like lower class people, like people in poverty, they tend to like not really focus, like low income to not really focus on politics as much in my experience, only because it's like they're just trying to survive. Like why the fuck
Right.
do I care? Like I'm just
Right.
does me caring who is my senator put food on my table? Likely
Right.
not. Like, yes, I'm like obviously that whoever's in office can help or hurt something, but for the most part, low income, like people below the poverty line, they tend to just not really. They're like, I'm just trying to get day to day shit done, man. Like I'm
Right.
just trying to. I just go to work. I pay my bills. Try to keep a roof over my head. All that stuff. So not saying like what his upbringing was and that sort of thing. He probably didn't really get interested in politics until he got to college, which is, I think, is like most people.
Yeah.
Um. So my point earlier was you you do now live, like he does now live a privileged life, which
Mm-hmm.
he earned it. I'm not
Right.
saying he didn't, because I will say I do respect him in the fact that, like, and I knew this about him. It didn't take watching the movie for me to know this about him. He did come a long way, like basically from nothing. Like,
Yeah.
yes, now he has a billionaire donor that helps him, that basically installed him into his senator seat, but that's beside the point. But he did work hard. I'm not saying he didn't work hard. And so I'm not saying like he doesn't know what struggling is. I'm just saying now I feel like the reason why I say I don't completely understand why he has this worldview, and it's not like from a mental thing, it's more of a socioeconomic thing. Because like you grew up poor, but you don't seem to like poor people. You grew up around mainly women. You don't seem to like women. You like all this sort of stuff. Like you, I don't understand this. Like I don't understand and like I said, it's just a lack of empathy. I feel like he does not. If people are not, if people don't share his exact worldview, where they are um, anti-choice. They're anti-gun control of any kind, anti-same-sex marriage, anti, like, and like I said, the whole him just hating childless women. He doesn't rant about, maybe he has, I just haven't seen it. He doesn't rant about men not having children, just women. That's all we're here for him. So to me, I'm like, you obviously did not, you like to talk about how your childhood formed you into the person that you are today, which is true, but it doesn't seem like it didn't hold over. That your upbringing did not teach you to feel for other people, did not teach you to respect people that are not like you. And that's where I don't know where the disconnect is, like where like the narcissistic tendencies, where the like anti-empathetic like sort of outlook on life, like where he got it from. I'm like, I understand he just kind of he toes the party line. Like he hated Donald Trump when most of the Republican Party hated Donald Trump. Now he really loves Donald Trump, and so that's, he basically just kind of says whatever he needs to say. Like, and that's what also like pisses me off about him is this: you can provide him with facts, you can provide him with all this information, you can fact check him on the spot. He'll whine about being fact checked. He'll whine about like, oh, this you said that this man's son or this man's child, I can't remember, was murdered, and he outright said he wasn't murdered, he died in a car accident. Can you please apologize? Stop using my son's name as like a political point at your rallies. And then JD Vance is like, no, I'm not gonna apologize. So he doesn't understand like where he is wrong. So that to me, I'm like, I don't, basically he acts like he grew up like on Fifth Avenue. That's where I'm like, I don't understand where this whole, like where all of it came from, because you act like you've, and that's why I do see why people say that he doesn't like know how the real life works, because he acts weird, he's awkward. I'm the same way, but it's also like he does know. He just, there's so much disconnect between him now and him as a kid. Like he's obviously like repressed shit. So
Correct.
he's obviously repressed shit to where he acts like he didn't grow up poor. He acts like he didn't he'll say it in his rallies. He'll gladly talk about it.
Yeah.
But he does act like he grew up like a upper middle class or like upper class elite. So that to me, that's my point, is I don't understand where, like, basically what happened to him. Obviously, because I know trauma and abuse, whatever, but it's like I understand that. I just don't understand like why he doesn't seem to have any sort of sympathy or regard for anyone lower than him.
I think it's again my same point. I think for someone who, and I'm not saying like you specifically, I just mean for people who don't experience that level of trauma in your close familial bonds, it is very easy to think that you would want to be the opposite, or you would want to empathize with people in your situation. Not everybody chooses that path. And I think it's a survival mechanism. It's a coping mechanism. Some people choose to pull the JD Vance, where they code switch and start acting like they've always been this wealthy until it serves them to not behave as such.
Yeah, that's a good point.
And again, I think it ties back to the security aspect of it, his personal security.
He's putting up a front, and he's put up this front for so long. I think now he just might genuinely believe it.
Drank his own Kool-Aid.
Yeah.
He faked it till he made it, and then he kept a hold of the same shit and just kept running with it because it worked for him. And as an insecurely attached person, when you find your security, you will do quite literally anything to keep it. Like quite literally anything. You will be whoever you have to be. You will say whatever you have to say. You will morph into whatever you have to morph into to keep your security. And I've talked about this before on the show, where it took me a long time to kind of figure out who I was because I just sort of morphed into whoever I hung out with. It's a similar thing, but on a much grander scale. He found safety and security and belonging within a worldview, within a group of people who share a worldview that is complete cognitive dissonance from the way that he was raised. And instead of pushing back against that, he chose to embrace it and go along with it because he had security for once in his life. And I think for him, it was a whatever it takes to keep this is what I'm going to do. Mm-hmm. And that is how we got JD Vance today. That's where we are. Does it excuse the behavior that he is exhibiting? No more than it excuses any other thing that any other traumatized person would do in a response that ends up inappropriate for the situation that they're in due to their own personal trauma. Like, we don't excuse anybody else's bad behavior for the shit that they've gone through in their life, right? So we can't excuse his either. However, I believe that we've at least found a reason, or at least I believe I found a reason. And I do believe that movie very deeply humanized him for me. And I think that is something that in all aspects of politics and media in general, we tend to forget that these people are real people and they've had real lives and they've lived through real shit. And while some of them have had much more privileged lives than others, there are still things about them we will never know. And I think it's something that needs to be thought about before we immediately start assuming the absolute worst of that person without trying to understand the whole person as much as possible. And I think JD Vance is a unique situation because most people we don't get this much information about. Mm-hmm. He freely shared this. So most politicians aren't this open with their life as he was.
Unless it benefits them.
Correct, unless it benefits them. Mm-hmm. And I'm not saying that wasn't JD's motivation. Obviously, he wrote the book long before he ever thought he was going to be a vice presidential nominee. But I don't know if this came out around the time that he was running for a Senate seat either. So I just think that the story of his life humanizes him quite a bit. Mm-hmm. But again, it gives lots of reasons for how we ended up here.
Yeah.
But it doesn't excuse the fact that he can now choose if he wants to. He may not see this as an option for himself. He may not feel like he needs to, or his trauma may be telling him that he cannot choose a different lifestyle or worldview than he has, or he will lose everything, which is something that does happen to people. But it is a reality that he has access to opposing information to his own worldview and could spend time learning about it and could change his mind if he felt obligated to. Do you know what I mean?
I just feel like he just tends to. He just shuts down. I feel like he feels. Down, yeah, he feels threatened when, yes. and it might be one of those things where he goes home, talks to his wife, they talk it over, like the whole Haiti thing, Haitian immigrants eating cats and dogs, eating pets, whatever, yeah. And then the whole, he calls them illegal immigrants, even though they're not illegal immigrants because they came here legally. He doesn't agree with the process of which they came, but they are technically by law here illegally, whether or not he wants to accept it or not. I think that's part of the problem. It's like it's almost like, I don't want to diagnose him as autistic, but it's almost like, well, that's not the way I think it should be done.
Right.
So I don't agree with it. Then they broke the rules, and I don't like that. And you tell them, well, they didn't break any rules. Well, I don't like those rules, so they broke the rules. And so it's just that sort of mindset. And so maybe he goes home and talks to his wife, and he might genuinely think God, I fucking hate Trump. God, I hate everything he stands for. But I won't be able to get anywhere if I don't toe the line. Basically, I just need to get in the White House, and then we can do whatever the fuck we want.
Yeah, and let's hope and pray that if he gets elected, that's exactly what he's doing. Mm-hmm. That he is going home every night and going, I hated every minute of what I had to just say up there, but guess what? We're going to get in the fucking White House, and then I only have to deal with this for 4 years, and then it can be my turn, and then we can do whatever we want, you know? So
And well, hopefully whatever we want doesn't equal Project
it's better.
2025,
Yeah,
so
it's better than what we had. Yeah, exactly. It doesn't equal Project 2025, which I know that he's a member of the Heritage Foundation who is backing this entire awful thing. I and that's why it's just difficult to reconcile. But I do understand his worldview comes from the fact that I think that he thinks if he would have been raised in the way that he is now proposing people ought to live their life, I think he thinks his life would have been perfect.
yeah.
His life would have been better had he been raised
He
that
has
way.
an idyllic view of what
Yes.
America should be. Like the 50s, white picket fence, man goes to work, woman stays home, wears the pearls and the heels and
Right.
has dinner
Because
ready
he's
and
never experienced it before. He's only
yeah.
ever seen it in a movie.
Yeah.
And when you are to him, that's what a real family is. Right? The
Yeah.
TV shows he would watch where the dad would come home and the mom would greet him at the door. That's a real family. But he can't reconcile that he's never seen that in real life.
Yeah. Cuz he didn't have that.
So
It's almost
no.
like if anyone like watching like WandaVision.
Yes.
Wanda making her own like sitcom life based on like 50, 60, 70 sitcoms based on what she thought a real true like life and family should be. So I feel it's almost like that.
Mm-hmm.
Obviously not as fantastical, but it's almost like that. It's like, well, this is how I didn't have this because like, in the show Wanda didn't have it. She did not have the family that she wanted. She did not have the life that she wanted. So she made it herself. And I feel like to me that's him. He is basically Wanda at this
Mm-hmm.
point without cool ass magic. But he's basically Wanda.
He's real
Where
life Wanda.
yeah, he's real life Wanda to where he wants the world or at least wants the country to be like the life he never had and thought
Mm-hmm.
he should have had.
Correct.
Yeah.
Because then he can relax
Yeah.
into his safety.
Yeah.
And he can create a safety net.
And
And
it's just constant.
I think he really thinks that that will be the safest thing for everybody. But I think his motivation isn't really because it's for everybody, it's because it's for him.
Yeah.
And I don't know if he recognizes that or not.
I think he just has a hard time not realizing that just because he wants something doesn't mean the rest of the country wants something or needs
Correct.
something. Like he doesn't
Correct.
like he maybe he does. I mean, he could be enough of an asshole to where he's like, "Well, this is what I want." And that means the rest of the country has to want it too. Like he could recognize that, oh, the rest of the country does not want this, but then he also is like, I don't fucking care. I want them to have it that way, what I want anyway.
Yeah. Yeah, I agree. So I think this just led me to more theories, but I did end up getting more answers than I thought I would get out of this. He makes sense to me now, anyway.
Yeah.
Um,
We
and
don't
I
agree
think
with him. We don't
we
agree
don't
with
agree
him,
with him,
but
but he
he
makes sense to me.
like despite like what I said about I don't understand like where he's coming from, like I that's not like 100% true. Like I get why he is the way he is. I don't understand. Like when I say I don't understand, it's not because like I don't recognize why he is the way he is. I don't understand. It's because it's for me. It's that's like my issue. Like whenever like it's kind of like I don't understand why certain people become serial killers. I don't understand why
Right.
certain people just start doing drugs, like that sort of stuff. I don't like some choices, and I'm sure there's choices I make that other people don't understand either. So it's like there's just the choices he's made. Like I don't understand why he's making them. I understand why he is the way he is as a whole. I don't personally like I can kind of see okay, I can see like for me it's like he teleported over there and I can see that he teleported over there, but what was the steps you took to get to that point? Like what was your thought process behind going from this to this? That sort of
Right.
thing.
Right. No, I get it.
So that's all my thoughts about that.
Yeah, that's all mine too. I don't think I have anything else to say about it. Um, that covers it. So, are you ready for the fun and fuckery portion, ma'am?
Yes, ma'am.
Let's kick her off, and then we've got some housekeeping to do. All right. We've made it to the fun and fuckery portion.
Let's go.
Let's go. So I do have a little bit of housekeeping. Piggybacking off of what we talked about at the beginning of this episode, which I just realized we never introduced that we were a podcast. We just started talking. Anyway, they figured it out. They know who we are. It's fine. We are deciding to drop video media at this moment. In an effort to keep things incredibly simple, we are going back to audio only format. So I am temporarily, I'm not taking the YouTube channel down, but there will be no more posts to YouTube. There will be no more Spotify video, just audio only. We are trying to simplify life right now. And until my brain chemicals get figured out, I don't have the bandwidth for it. And you know what? It's fine. We don't need to be on video. I feel like we're a little bit more free to be ourselves when we're not on video because we don't have to make sure our faces are doing the correct thing. And Amanda can just come home and take her work clothes off and get comfortable instead of having to be uncomfortable into the wee hours of the night when she wants to be doing nothing other than taking her fucking work clothes off. And I can show up with no bra and a fucked up grill and it can just be what it is. So that's what we're doing. We're going back to audio only.
So the audio won't like post on YouTube either?
Well, it will through the RSS feed.
Okay. That's what I was wondering. I was like they were before.
Yeah, the RSS feed will pop up, but there's no video element. It will be strictly audio. So, oh God, big yawn. That's our cue that we need to wrap this shit up. So, we do have some more Mad Libs for you, though. That is not going away because we have an entire finished. We have an entire book finished. What am I trying to say? Golden Girls Mad Lib.
Yeah.
So, and you need words from me this time, right?
Yeah. Is it my stupid ex-husband Stan?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. So from you, I need an adjective.
Slimy.
Slimy. Plural noun.
Porta-johns.
You call them porta-johns? I call them porta-potties.
Well, I do too, but I thought porta-johns sounded funnier.
Animal.
Whatever
plural.
sounds funnier, you may put there. Animal is wildebeests.
Plural noun.
Pickles.
Pickles.
I've been eating a lot of those lately. I've been having like a sour things craving, so.
Adjective.
Rough.
Rough. That's how I feel.
Mm-hmm. Preach it, sister. Preach it.
Part of the body.
Inner thigh.
Speaking of, you know how we were talking about like squats? I did literally 20 squats yesterday. My legs are not happy.
Oh,
I don't
know. You know, I was fine. I did 120 that day in total, and I was okay.
I don't
Like I
understand.
said, I'm not doing a full squat. I'm not. I'm doing like
to be fair, I am doing full squats.
Yeah, you are. I'm not. I'm doing like little half squats right now.
Like I understand.
Down.
Like I understand. I sit all day, like, and I've been so busy, like I literally don't move for like hours at a time, and I understand like that is not conducive to like good muscle tone and stuff, but
Yeah.
it's the fact of like I do like 15-20 squats, and then my legs the next day are like, you're gonna be falling into chairs and onto toilets, and you're just gonna have to live with it for a few days.
I mean, to be fair, I feel like my 120 squats are probably the equivalent of like 30 to 40 actual squats.
Gotcha.
So,
Silly word.
goddamn.
God damn.
Not goddamn. Goddamn.
God
Or
damn.
goddamn.
Got
Whatever
damn.
works better. Whatever works better. You choose.
Okay.
Choose your own adventure today.
Dealer's choice. Number.
97. Why? I don't know. It just came to me.
Adjective.
Matte black.
I was gonna say Matt Damon.
Matt Damon.
What kind of Damon? Matt Damon.
Matt.
Matt Damon. Matt. Noun.
Tickle Me Elmo.
Aw, I never had one. I never had one of those.
Neither did I. Didn't care to.
Noun.
Freaky as shit. Riding crop.
Oh. So soon after Tickle Me Elmo.
Shit.
I accidentally wrote Riding Elmo. Riding crop. Whoops.
I love it.
That's nothing about Riding Elmo. Adjective.
Oh shit. Oh, burnt to a crisp. Riding Elmo.
Riding Elmo.
That would be a verb ending in ing, though, wouldn't it?
Oh, riding, yeah.
Riding, yeah.
Animal.
Chinchilla.
Chinchilla. Verb, past tense.
Fucked.
Fucked.
Because we didn't have an ing. So.
No. Oh, jeez. Verb.
Murder.
Murder. Only murders in the building. Noun.
Okay, long one. You ready?
Yeah.
Actually, probably a sentence. My non-existent sex life. Because it's about a stupid ex-husband. So I was like, that'll work.
Okay. This is still in, like I said, it's still in our Golden Girls. This is called My Stupid Ex-Husband Stan. Let me tell you about the most slimy idiot I know, who happens to be my ex-husband and the father of our porta-johns, Stanley Zabornak. Stan makes his living selling novelties like rubber wildebeests, plastic animal poop, and whoopee pickles. Let's just say that he is not the most rough businessman. When it comes to money, Stan doesn't know his inner thigh from his elbow. In fact, we almost got thrown in jail because the big goddamn didn't file our taxes for 97 years. And oh, did I mention that he left me after 40 matte black years for a Tickle Me Elmo half his age?
Oh my god.
Oh, jeez. Stan thinks of himself as a ladies' man, but he is about as charming as a riding crop, and as smart as one, too. But the most burnt to a crisp thing about Stan is his toupee. It looks like a chinchilla crawled onto his head and fucked. Why does that fit?
I don't know, but I don't like it.
Every time I see him, I want to murder it off and flush it down my non-existent sex life.
Okay, that didn't make sense at all. I'm sorry.
It's okay.
Ugh, mine are never good, man. It's kind of funny, but mine are never good. Amanda's are always the best. This next one that we'll do is so short. It's so short. But it's actually two parts. It's a part one, and it says part one. Remember that one, part one. But it's like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 words. That's it. So you'll have an easy one, but you better make it interesting because you don't have a lot of words.
Okay, I'll try
to make it interesting.
No pressure.
No pressure. But anyway, I'm gonna pull a D'Angelo Wallace outro and say whether you'll hear from us in a week or you'll hear from us in 100 days, we don't know. We are playing it by ear right now, and we thank you for being patient with us during this tough time that we are having.
Tumultuous era, you know.
Yeah, we're in our tumultuous era right now. We're in our sad bitch era right now. So we're in our brain chemicals are non-existent era right now. I saw this little meme or this little picture on Instagram. It's a skeleton holding a brain. He's like, "Isn't there supposed to be serotonin or some shit in here?" It's kind of funny. I was like, relate. So anyway, Halloween, when this airs, I'll actually be at the doctor that morning, hopefully figuring out my brain chemicals. So yay.
We'll see how that goes.
But we'll see how that goes. But anyway, until next time, whether that be next week or not, thanks for hanging out with us, and we will see you when we see you. Okay, bye.
Okay, bye.